All right, so section 3.5, part C, the last part of section 3.5, is about writing equations from a graph. So I'm going to give you a picture, and then based on the picture, you should be able to give me a relatively close equation to, or a representation of an equation to that picture. So the way you're going to do it is based on the solution. So I'm going to show you guys two examples, and then I'm going to give you guys the home. Well, you already have the homework. It's only two problems. It's the last two from the worksheet. And then I've been having a lot of people asking me if we could watch the Dodger parade. So I said, look, let me finish the lesson. Then you guys can do the homework. While you're doing the homework, I'll project the thing for you guys. So if you're interested, you can watch. If you could care less, you don't have to. Okay. But let's get through the lesson first, right? So here we go. Example number one, or these aren't the homework, by the way, because only two homework problems. So I'm going to do two just random problems. Okay. So example number one, write an equation that could possibly represent the graph given. Now notice a key word that is written here, and you're going to see the same thing in your instructions. I don't know if they use the word possibly, but that's kind of like the gist of it is the equation you give me may not be the actual equation for the graph given, but it's going to be a close one. Okay. Because there's so many possibilities for a graph, what the equation can be for a graph. So we're saying write an equation that could possibly represent the graph I'm going to give you. Now, the graph I'm going to give you doesn't have to look perfectly identical to mine, but whoops, hold on. But I want to make sure that there's a couple places that you do kind of get correct. Okay. So I'm going to do this really quick. Let me make the little tick marks for us here. So I'm going to do two of them. Okay. And the reason why I'm doing two is because I want you to see both types that you're going to see for your homework. So I didn't make this one a 5x5. For some reason, I went 6x5, but that's okay. All right. So make sure that you cross the x-axis where I cross, but it doesn't matter if yours goes higher or lower than mine. Okay, so just make sure that you cross where I'm crossing. So I'm crossing at -3, at 0, let me go to +3 and 6. So at -3, at 0, at +3, and at 6. I'm putting some dots right there for us, okay? Now, on your homework, those dots won't be there, but I'm going to ask you to put the dots there because they're going to help you, okay? But it doesn't matter if yours go as high or as low as mine do. That doesn't matter at all. The most important thing is where it crosses the x-axis, okay? All right, does anybody need a little bit more time to kind of create that, or are we good? All right, so let's write down the answers that we see. Remember the answers, the solutions, the roots, the zeros. It's where it crosses the x-axis, right? So I'm going to write down the four solutions that I see. X equals to -3, x equals to 0, x equals to +3, and x equals to +6. Do you guys agree? Those are the four answers there, right? They're right there. So what I'm going to do, I got to create the factors. The way you create the factors that we're going to multiply together is by moving things to the left. So I'm going to move these to the left, okay? Now, you're going to notice I didn't do it to the 0 because if I move the 0 to the left, it doesn't do anything, okay? So my factors are x plus 3 equals 0. I'm going to put it like this. X equals 0. I'm going to do this. X minus 3 equals 0. I'm going to do that. And x minus 6 equals to 0. Those are my factors. The way I got them is I moved things to the left side, except for the 0, because like I said, the 0 doesn't do much. Now you see everything in parentheses? I'm going to put them all together on one side. I'll start with the simple one, the x one. So x plus 3, x minus 3, x minus 6 equals 0. So now that I've done that, the last thing I have to do is multiply that out and I'm done. I don't have to like solve for anything or anything like that. We already know the answers are negative 3, 0, 3, and 6. Okay, so we already know those solutions, but they're trying to figure out where do those answers come from. So in other words, give me the equation where they came from. Okay, so what I'm going to do is multiply everything out. So just one more time, let me go through the process. We're going to do this again in a second equation or a second problem, but I was given a picture. On that picture, I put dots where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, I listed those answers. X equals negative 3, x equals 0, x equals 3, x equals 6. I listed them. After I listed them, I wrote them as factors. The way you write them as factors is you move your answers to the left. Okay, so this x equals negative 3 became x plus 3, right? Equals 0. The x equals 0, leave it alone. The x equals 3, we move it over, it becomes x minus 3 equals 0. And the x equals 6, we move the 6 over, we get x minus 6 equals 0. Get all of these factors, everything in parentheses, put them all together on the same side. So now it says x times x plus 3 times x minus 3 times x minus 6 equals 0. Okay? Multiply all of that out and you're done. I think that's the hardest part, is the multiplication part. Okay? So this could take a little bit of time, but not too much time. So here we go. Let's start off with x times x times 3. So that gives me x squared plus 3x. Oh, let me change the color, I'm sorry. So when I multiply that out, I get x squared plus 3x. Now what I'm going to also do, that way I don't waste too many steps. You see how I have two binomials at the end, x minus 3, x minus 6? Let me multiply those out as well. Okay, I'm going to do those at the same time. So here we go. X times x times negative 6. And then I'll also do negative 3 times x, negative 3 times negative 6. So here we go. X times x, that's x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. And negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. Equals to 0. Let me clean up the right side a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be x squared plus 3x. And then inside that big parenthesis, we have x squared minus 9x plus 18. We're almost done. We just got to distribute one more time, clean it up, and we're finished. Okay, so we're going to distribute this binomial into the trinomial. Okay, so the 2 terms into a 3 term. So here we go. Let's do that. So x squared times x squared times negative 9x, x squared times 18. So let's do that first. So x squared times x squared, that's x to the 4th. X squared times negative 9x is negative 9x cubed, because it's a square times the first, so that's a cube. X squared times 18, that's 18x squared. Now let's multiply the positive 3x over. Okay, so positive 3x times x squared, positive 3x times negative 9x, positive 3x times 18. So here we go. So 3x times x squared is a positive 3x cubed. Okay. And then 3x times negative 9x is a negative 27x squared. And 3x times 18, that's a positive, what is that, 54? So positive 54x equals to 0. Clean this up and we're finished. Okay, combine your like terms. There is no x to the fourth like terms. There's just one. So I'm going to write x to the fourth. But I can combine negative 9x cubed with a positive 3x cubed. That comes out to a negative 6x cubed. So minus 6x cubed. Now my x squared terms. 18x squared minus 27x squared. That's negative 9x squared. And then I just have a 54x equal to 0, and I'm done. So when I told you guys this is considered like not that hard to do, it's not supposed to be. It's just multiplication. But when you look at the multiplication, you might say like, well, yeah, but that was a lot of multiplication. True, that was a lot of multiplication. But do you think that they think that you're going to struggle multiplying numbers at this point? Not really, right? Multiplying letters, they don't think you're going to struggle with that. So they call this a simple section because all you're doing is multiplying stuff out. Now, the way we get there is a little different, right? And we're going to do another example to kind of help you with this. But the way we get there is a little different. The way we get there, if you look at the very top of the notes, or actually let me lower it just a little bit. We first identified the answers. Okay, that's what this top line is. Identify the answers. The second line is write your answers as factors. Move them to the left. Okay, move them to the left. Once you write your answers as factors, get all your factors together and multiply them out. Okay, that's what all this mess is after that, right? When we have the x times x plus 3 times x minus 3 times x minus 6 all together, now we just got to multiply it out. Okay, once we multiply it all out, we're going to finally get a solution of just a simplified equation. And that's it. That's all we have to do. So in other words, this equation that you see down here, x to the fourth minus 6x cubed minus 9x squared plus 54x, is a possible equation for this picture up here. Okay? So that is a possible one. There might be another one, but that's one of them. So let's do one more. And you know what, so that you don't have to rewrite your so that we don't have to rewrite the instructions, let's put an A right here, part A. That way we just do part B. Same instructions. Write an equation that could possibly represent the given graph. By the way, I did the hard one first, just so you know. Out of the two, this would be the hard one because this one has 4 factors. The one we're going to do next is only going to have 3. So it's going to be less work. Okay? So here we go. Part B. Let me draw a graph for us here. Let me label the tick marks. You won't have to graph it on your homework. As if you guys look at your homework page, there's 2 already there, so you don't have to worry about it. All right, again, it doesn't matter if your graph looks exactly like mine, but what does matter is that you cross through the same x values, okay? Cross through the same x values. So here we go. So crossing through -2, 1, and +3. Make sure you cross through those same x values. Your high point can be much higher or much lower than mine. I don't care. The low point over here at like about 2, it could be lower or higher. It doesn't matter. But make sure that you cross through those points right there. Okay? And if you want to, go ahead and put dots already. 1 at -2, 1 at 1, and 1 at 3. Remember, our first step is to label or write down our answers, right? We want to write down the answers that we got. So one of the answers is going to be x equals -2. The other one's going to be x equals 1 and x equals 3. So right now I'm kind of just waiting a little bit because I know some of you guys are still kind of drawing it. But remember, your next step is to write down the zeros, the solutions, the roots, right? Let me just finish it. So once you have this drawn, we're gonna write down our solutions. X equals -2, x equals 1, x equals 3. And then remember, what you're supposed to do is write your answers as factors. That means move everything to the left. So I'm going to move these answers to the left-hand side. So they should look like this. X plus 2 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. That's what it should look like. And I put parentheses around it because I know I got to multiply these out. So once you do that part, now it's get all your factors, multiply them together, and then you're done. So here we go. I'm going to write x plus 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3 equals to 0. You can multiply any of these three in any order you want, but most people just go from left to right, so we can do that. Okay, so I'm going to do x times x times -1. I'm also going to multiply 2 times x, 2 times -1. So here we go. X times x is x squared. X times -1 is -x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times -1 is -2. And I still have that x minus 3 there, okay? I haven't multiplied that yet. Let me fix up this big parenthesis right there because I do have like terms in the middle. -x plus 2x is a positive x. So positive x minus 2 times x minus 3 equals to 0. So I got to do multiplication one more time here. Okay. I don't know how you want to multiply left to right, right to left. I prefer whenever I'm doing a three term times a 2 term, I always like going from the 2 term into the 3 term. I prefer doing that. You don't have to do it that way. I just think it's less of a mess going from smaller to bigger. So I'm going to go x times those 3 first. Okay. And then I'll multiply the -3 times those. And then I just got to fix them and I'm done. I got to combine them. So here we go. So x times x squared, that's x cubed. X times x, x squared. X times -2, that's -2x. So I just did the x part, the green lines. Now let's do the blue ones, okay? -3 times x squared is -3x squared. -3 times x is -3x. And -3 times -2 is +6. And that's equal to 0. So my last step, just combine my like terms and I'm finished, okay? So you'll notice x cubed does not have a like term. So I'm just going to write x cubed. X squared does have like terms. A positive x squared minus 3x squared. So it's -2x squared. The x to the first has like terms. -2x minus 3x is -5x. And then add 6 because there's no like term with the 6. And this is your answer to the problem. Okay. So again, I'm going to kind of zoom out a bit. The point of this problem, and I know I'm not showing the whole graph, but honestly, the whole graph doesn't matter. The only part that matters are the little dots, right? Where the answers are. Your job, find these solutions, the dots. Put the dots on the graph. Once you have the dots there, label the dots, write them down. So I wrote x equals -2, x equals 1, x equals 3. I labeled them. Rewrite them into a factor, meaning get them, move them to the left. Write them in parentheses, right? So that's what I did right after that first line. I put them all in parentheses. Once you put them in parentheses, put all the parentheses on one side, put the equal 0 on the right side, multiply them out, and that's it. That's all you got to do. So like I said, maybe you're like, yeah, that one isn't that easy. You said it's going to be simple. It's supposed to be, because right now in math 3, they're not assuming that you guys are struggling multiplying numbers and letters. They're assuming like you're good, you're golden with it, that you're not struggling. So they say this should be simple. Okay. Now, of course, you can mess up on multiplication. I've done it many times. It's not like you can't do it, but just be careful. Take your time so that you get your answers correct. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this thing right now. I'll let you go. And then get your homework. If you don't have a homework, look inside that black box. Okay.